just talk like there's plenty. Oh, people just 7 people are here. How about we start and oh, I guess it did start automatically. Oh my gosh, I think we're live.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're going to really start in just a minute or two. Would someone please in the chat just say, yes, we hear you?
Yes, please. That would
That
be.
would be helpful. Oh, and it's even recording automatically. So, okay, we are live.
I was about to remind
um,
you.
okay, good. But here's what would be wonderful. First of all, my name's Barak. I'm here with Tamy-Feé. We'll introduce ourselves in just a minute. We had some like 80 people register for this, so we want to give people to log in. Oh, yay. So also, would you just kind of where are you coming from and sort of maybe who you are, why you're here? Are you a parent? Are you a consultant? Are you a very confused teenager? That'd be really great.
Awesome.
So,
Thank
okay, so we can be heard. That's exciting. This is a new
you.
platform, fairly new for me, brand new for Tamy-Feé. And so every now and then weird things like, where's that button?
I love it.
Okay, 501. Do you want to just jump in, Tamy-Feé, get started?
I think that's great. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, hello, welcome, everyone. My name is Barak Rosenbloom. I'm the founder and creator of EssayQuest, which is an online program that supports high school kids writing their college essays. And I've been mentoring kids with college essays since 2009. And oh, whoops, let's not do that yet.
Oh.
The slides. Okay, there we go. Since 2009. And what I was thinking about this the other day when I was about 27 or 28, I had this great job. Things were going like on paper really well. And I was walking to work one day and I stopped cold and said, I'm living someone else's life. Hmm. And on paper, again, I was an amazing start to a career in public policy and service. And for ever since then, that's been one of my big questions. Am I living my life or am I living someone else's life? And part of that for me, and this is why I'm so excited for Tamy-Feé joining us, is how does my brain work? How do I work most effectively and most efficiently? And really over the past decades have been finding different ways to make myself more effective, more efficient, and feel more natural in kind of where I'm at. And very excited, like I said, to have Tamy-Feé here. Oh, Jeremy's here, my buddy Jeremy. So I want to let Tamy-Feé introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna kind of read quickly through some of the folks. Again, if you're just joining us, please just if you have in the chat, just who you are, where you're from, and maybe why you're here. Love to hear that. But I'll switch to Tamy-Feé.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barak. My name is Tamy-Feé Meneide, everyone. I am an executive functioning coach as well as an educational consultant. And what that all means is that I help families, individuals, students navigate the academic pathway, the educational landscape. So whatever it is that they are looking to do, I help them achieve those life goals. I work under a framework called Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that really just means find the true sense of happiness for you. And no one else can dictate that, right? Only you know what makes you happy and what brings you joy. And so that's the framework that I use. And I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. And we're going to hopefully come away with some real concrete tools.
Great. Okay, thank you. So let's see, I see Jeremy's from Seattle, who I happen to know has a couple of teenagers who I've known since they were little itsy bitsy infants. Laurie, interested with a parent of 14-year-old. Hi, Laurie. Oh, and as an independent educational consultant. Mm-hmm. Now, there may be people on here who don't, that's independent educational consultant is sort of like, yeah, but what is that? That's basically a private college consultant. And Tamy-Feé is one of those. I just work with essays, and then there are people who do everything. So welcome, Laurie. And Priscilla from Chicago. 3 boys who are not teens. Okay, good. You got it coming soon. And Jen from New York. Nice to meet you. And Jen and JP, California. Thanks so
Awesome.
much, all
Hey,
of you, for
family.
joining us. So if you have any questions, I'm going to turn this over to Tamy-Feé in just a moment. And this is her expertise, her specialty. So she's going to be leading this. I might jump in every now and then. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I will manage those. And so Tamy-Feé doesn't have to pay attention to that. If you click on the handout button, just to the right, it says chat, Q&A, handouts. There is a handout for the worksheet for this, if you want to download that to help you take notes. And we'll also send this to you when we send out the recording. So you'll have that as well, but you can download that right now if you'd like.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. Teen girls 10 and 12 and 15 months. You're really okay. Priscilla.
Okay. Right. Super parent over
You're
here.
a
Okay.
planner. Oh my
Love
gosh. Okay. Okay. With that, I'm going to mute myself, and Tamy-Feé, it's all yours.
All right. Let me begin by sharing the presentation, right? That's what we're all here for. All right, y'all. So again, welcome everyone. I'm really, really happy that you're here. Thank you so much for taking time to join this conversation. So I want to start by acknowledging something that's often left unsaid. Many parents, educators, and even students come into this conversation about executive functioning feeling worried, feeling frustrated, or quietly blaming themselves. You may be supporting a teen who is super bright, capable, full of potential, but somehow they struggle with organization, follow through, emotional regulation, or time management. Don't we all? And you may be wondering, why is this so hard when they clearly care, right? And so tonight, my goal is to shift our questioning. And instead of asking, what's wrong, we're going to ask the question, what's happening in the brain? This session is grounded in neuroscience, but it's designed for everyday life. So you don't need a background in psychology or cognitive science or education. You just need curiosity and a willingness to rethink how we support developing brains, right? And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you walk away with clarity, compassion, and concrete tools that you can actually use. So here we go. Let's start off with the question, right? What is executive functioning? What is it? So, executive functioning refers to the brain's high level cognitive processes. These are the skills that help us manage life's demands effectively. I often describe executive functioning as the brain's command center, right? Or its project manager. It doesn't do the work for you, but it decides some very key things. It decides what to do, when to do it, and how to stay on track, right? So these skills show up everywhere when we're planning assignments, we're managing emotions, we're staying focused, organizing our day, and following through on our commitments, right? Something that's really important to think about is executive functioning is not the same as intelligence. Executive functioning is not the same as intelligence. A student can be incredibly smart and still struggle deeply in this area, right? So when executive functioning is weak or underdeveloped, it can look like a couple of things: procrastination, disorganization, emotional outbursts, or inconsistent performance. But underneath that is usually a brain that's overloaded and overwhelmed. It's not the person who doesn't care, right? So a student might genuinely want to do well on an assignment, but feels frozen because they don't know how to begin. That's not laziness. That's executive functioning. So hopefully that intro lets you breathe a little bit, because once we understand that these struggles are skills based and not character-based, everything changes. So again, we're going to stop asking, why won't they? And start asking, what support does the brain need right now? And that question opens the door to effective intervention. Here we go. So when we think about the core components of executive functioning, it's actually made up of several interrelated skills, right? But today we're just going to focus on 3 core components. These skills work together constantly. They are like instruments in a symphony. You rarely use one without the other. They go together. So whether a teen is doing homework, navigating a friendship conflict, or preparing for a test, all 3 of these skills are going to be involved. And when one is underdeveloped or overwhelmed, the entire system feels strained. So these are the 3 components: working memory, inhibitory control, and cognitive flexibility. So let's break these down in practical terms, right? Working memory. That's the ability to hold information in your mind while using it. So, for example, remembering multi-step instructions long enough to complete them all. When working memory is overloaded, students might forget assignments, lose track of steps, or freeze when the tasks feel too complex, right? The next one, inhibitory control. This is the brain's pause button. It helps us resist the impulses, manage distractions, and regulate our emotional reactions. I always tell my students, let's practice the pause, right? This is why a teen might know they shouldn't check their phone, but they still struggle to stop themselves in doing it. And finally, the third component, cognitive flexibility. This is the ability to adapt, to shift strategies, to tolerate uncertainty, or see a situation from another perspective. When cognitive flexibility is low, students can get stuck in that all or nothing thinking. I'm bad at this. This is too hard. Or what's the point, right? None of these are moral failings. They're developmental skills. I often work with students who say, I studied, but then my brain went blank. That's working memory under stress, not lack of preparation. This slide is really foundational, right? Executive functioning is largely regulated by the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain right behind the forehead. And here's the key insight. This part of the brain is still under construction throughout adolescence. That's huge. So when we think about the neural connections that need to be strengthened and pruning and reorganizing, that happens well into our mid-20s. So when we ask a teenager to plan a long-term project, regulate very strong emotions, manage their time independently, we are often asking them to use skills that are still developing. This means struggles with organization or impulse control, they're not character flaws, they're biological realities. Understanding this really allows us to respond with support and compassion instead of punishment. So, for example, we wouldn't expect a 10-year-old to drive a car. In the same way, we shouldn't expect an adult level self-regulation from a developing brain, right? All of these things matter when we're understanding this. So executive functioning matters so much because these skills predict a successful life across multiple domains. So in academics, they affect homework completion, test preparation, and long-term projects. In relationships, they support communication, empathy, conflict resolution. In emotional health, they help us manage stress, frustration, anxiety. And long term, strong executive functioning is linked to better health, career stability, and sound financial decision making. So when we support these skills early, we're not just helping students succeed in school and complete the homework, we're actually helping them build life capacity. And that's really why executive functioning matters. Let me introduce you to Jordan. Jordan is 15 years old. He has a history project due on Friday. Jordan knows it's important, right? Jordan wants to do well. He intends to do well. And yet, Jordan keeps putting it off. From the outside, it may look like procrastination. But let's ask that question. What's happening in the brain right now? So, thinking about Jordan, his working memory is overwhelmed by all the project components. Inhibitory control is losing battles against his phone notifications. And cognitive flexibility is stuck in the thought, this is too much for me. When we understand this, our response changes. So instead of saying, just get started, we ask, how can we reduce the load on the brain right now? Before we talk strategies, I want to emphasize something important. Executive functioning challenges are not solved by motivation alone. These strategies work because they reduce the cognitive load on the brain. They're scaffolds, they're not shortcuts. So let's go through them.
Can I pause a moment? Oh my God, I love this. I just love that. I just think this is amazing. I'm already like learning a lot, and I work with teens all the time, and I think about me. Inhibitory control, I have like none. But as whether you're working with teens as a parent, excuse me, as a parent, my teens, my fiance's kids are now 22 and 23, so I kind of went through it there. But I work with teens all the time, and some of them, the earliest ones, are now 34.
Wow.
33, 34. So I've actually stayed close with a lot of the kids I've worked with over the years and seen them evolve. And really was thinking that mid-20s, I joke that they're adults in training.
Yes.
and many times, maybe not see someone for 6 months or a year, and we're talking, or they'll say something. I'll say, "Oh, you're a fully certified adult."
Yes.
Like there's that shift. I don't know if it's sometimes harder when you're the parent, and it's right there, and the additional worries of, oh, is my kid going to be okay? But they all shift into that pretty much. I've noticed. And also as a consultant, working with kids, I'm excited about the specific strategies, but I'm already seeing the dynamics. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. And I'll make sure to come back to those. But put those in, and I'll send it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barak. So when we think about strategies, again, this is not to overload you. I'm going to go through 5 different strategies. I'm going to talk about when to use it, why it works, and maybe how to explain it to a teen. So here we go. Number 1, we've all done it. Break tasks into smaller steps. So I love to use this when a student is procrastinating, when a student says or admits, I don't know where to start, right? Or when a student shuts down and completely avoids the larger, bigger assignments, right? So, right off the rip, large tasks overwhelm working memory. That's a truth. When the brain can't hold all of the steps at once, it goes into avoidance mode. So when we break the task into small, concrete steps, what we're doing is lowering the anxiety and making task initiation neurologically possible. So you're when I'm explaining this to a teen, I'm saying to them, I get it. Your brain isn't refusing to work. It just needs a smaller entry point. So instead of saying, work on your history project, let's try, let's open up a document. Let's write down the title. Let's find one source and let's think through 3 bullet points. Even completing the one step builds momentum and dopamine, which increases follow through. So, again, breaking tasks into smaller steps lowers the anxiety and improves the task initiation. Number two, establishing routines and schedules. Whew, okay. When to use it? When your mornings or your evenings feel chaotic. When a student constantly asks, what should I do next? Or when time management is inconsistent, right? One of the things that I want us to think about is routines reduce decision fatigue. I know parents out there feel this deeply. Every decision drains executive resources. So when routines are predictable, the brain uses less energy deciding and more energy doing. So routines don't restrict freedom, they actually preserve it by conserving the mental energy. So, for example, a consistent after school reset routine: snack, 20-minute break, homework block, check your planner. This removes that daily negotiation that we sometimes get into as parents, and it lowers the emotional friction. Routines reduce that decision fatigue and it creates predictability. The third strategy, using external supports. So, gosh, I use this all the time. When students forget assignments or deadlines, when they rely on adults to remind them of everything, and when they struggle to hold multiple tasks in their mind. External tools act as an extension of working memory. The goal here is not independence without tools. The goal is independence with tools. So, using reminders or planners, that's not cheating. Adults use calendars, alarms, task managers constantly, right? So, examples of this would be digital calendar alerts, visual checklists, phone reminders for transitions, right? What we're doing here is we're teaching systems, not dependence. External supports act as, again, an extension of working memory. When we think about the fourth strategy here, practicing mindfulness, this one is a big one. You can use it before big tests or big presentations. I know I did today. When emotions escalate quickly and when attention feels scattered. This works because mindfulness strengthens inhibitory control by improving the brain's ability to practice the pause before reacting. Now, even short practices like taking a deep breath can increase attention regulation over time. So, mindfulness does not mean clearing the mind. What it actually means is noticing without reacting. Mindfulness strengthens the attention and the impulse control. So, something like 2 minutes of slow breathing before a test can reduce stress hormones enough to improve working memory access. My educators out there, do this before any assessment. I promise you, your students are going to be able to access the content, remember that content even better. And finally, this fifth strategy, reflect and self monitor. We use this after completing a task or project. We also can use this when patterns of struggle repeat, right? We also use this when we're building independence. This works because reflection builds metacognition. Thinking about thinking. That's what metacognition is, right? The ability to learn from experience. This really strengthens executive awareness and helps students transfer the skills to new situations, right? So when we think about reflecting, we want to keep it simple. It doesn't need to be, shadow work. It can be as simple as what worked? What was hard? What would I do differently next time? This shifts focus from the outcomes to the process, which is so essential for long-term growth. It's one of my favorite exercises and strategies to utilize with my students. I'll pause here. Barak, are there any questions?
There are not, folks. There's like 25 people, and I know a lot of those people there because I have lots of conversations with some of you are questioners.
I love it. I love it.
So now there's also I think it's like a 10-second pause. So they're not going to hear us for 10 seconds.
Love it.
But while we're kind of waiting, I really do want people to ask questions. And if you want to engage, just say so. I can unblock your mic. I can unblock your camera, like whatever people can, we can do like a Q&A as well and be a little more interactive. But I'm looking at this and again, thinking in terms of my process of working with students.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to actually share a little bit of some of the things that I've created. I'm like, oh, awesome. That's why I did it. I can now start seeing, seeing some of the things that I've done that I found to be incredibly effective and even absolutely necessary, without necessarily knowing fully why, even though I'm kind of a neuroscience nerd, but not like you. Let me share my, let's see if I share that. So the first thing, when you were talking about breaking things down, and working with college essays, or like you said, the papers, or come up with a college list, or even come up with a list of ideas of things you could write about, seems overwhelming to kids.
Overwhelming.
And so this is just one activity in the program, an EssayQuest program that I use, that I realized, like, okay, what is this? It's a set of questions. Do it because of this. Now do this. 1, open your story starters and raw content file. If you don't have a folder, do this. It should look like this.
Yes.
I mean, it's like I realized over time that it was just so hard for kids that I just had to keep breaking things into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. And I never realized how many discrete tasks, activities, steps there are in something that seems straightforward and
Sure.
easy. So actually that's something I can, um, invite people to do is like, as you're like, I don't know, making toast,
Yeah.
like step one, go to the bread box. Step two, open the bread box. Step three, take out the bread. There's a lot more. There's no toast if you don't open the bread box.
100%.
And that's what I discovered in some of these things that's like, oh, just write your college essay. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
So there's a lot of things. Let's see. So Tamy-Feé, how can you encourage kids? This is from Jen. How can you encourage kids to seek extra help from teachers? That's a
love
great
that.
question.
Yeah. So that's where I would say that's the building of the independence, right? The agency and advocacy. So where I would start with that is first helping them first draft that email to that teacher, saying exactly what is that they don't understand or what they are looking for help with. I don't want students to think that they hide behind the email, but that first step kind of helps them when they go and approach that adult, especially that adult that they're struggling in that class with, right? It breaks it down. "Oh, I got your email, Jordan. Thank you so much. Yes, yeah, you need some more help with, the algebraic equations? Let's, come by my office hours during lunch, okay?" It helps break down the, um, barrier of just being able to start that first step. And that first step is initiating the communication because the teacher doesn't know you're struggling in the way that you're struggling. And so when a student says, God, I don't understand what's happening in the class, I say, okay, does your teacher know that you don't understand? No, because you haven't raised your hand and said it. No worries. Let's write an email. And it comes from the student, not from the parent. Now, the parent, you can be right there helping them, making sure, dear Mrs. or Mr. So and so, comma, next line. What is it that we're looking at? I know it feels so mundane, especially for my generation where we just figured it out, right? We didn't have the hand holding that is sometimes necessary with this younger generation, but that's okay. That's okay. We're building their endurance. We're building their agency. And that's why we are always asking the question, what does the brain need right now? And that student that needs to reach out to that teacher, they need to break down that wall of that's a scary thing or it's not going to do anything. Let's do that first small task.
I'm thinking about and Amy, my fiance's kids,
Yeah.
who are unbelievably capable. And what
Yes.
I've been noticing is they have no clue how capable they are. And so Alex, just his grandparents gave him, ship the old, their car from Florida to replace his before it falls apart underneath him.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden he needed to register the car. So he went to the registry. They said, okay, well, you need a Washington State driver's license. He still has his Montana license from when he went to Montana State. Now he has to figure out. So he had all these things to figure out. And he was like, Mom, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And we basically said, oh, well, just again, break it down. You got to go drive to to where you get your driver's license, and just you can't get an appointment for 4 weeks, so just drive over there. It's always walk in and quick.
Mhm.
And sometimes I've noticed that just starting them on something, the
Yeah.
first step, it goes and there's a lot of emails. Well, what do I do? It's like, just okay, write an email. What do I say? Thank you for your time. Can we schedule a follow-up? Like, it's a very, but they've
Yeah.
never, we've done this for years. It's
Mhm.
second nature to us.
Yeah.
It wasn't second nature to us when we were 20
Yeah.
or 15 or 27, right? I start when I was 40, it hit me one day. I'm working with teenagers. They are different from me. Maybe I am. I was like 40 years old when I was like, okay, I'm an adult. And it's some of these things like, yeah, we actually know how to do this as adults.
Mhm.
So Jenny asked, oh, I knew awesome. I'm going to be working with Jenny's daughter. My daughter has test anxiety. So I
Mhm.
will let her know about the 2 minutes of breathing before an assessment and test. That's great.
Yes,
That's
that's awesome.
fabulous, Jenny.
That's great.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I will reinforce it. When we talk, if
Yeah,
that's the one thing, if I'm noticing, because often students with me as when one-on-one conversations get anxious or nervous,
mhm.
and I'll just kind of talk, say, hey, what's going, try to relax. And sometimes I'm like, oh, come on, kid.
Yeah,
But that's a really useful tool. I
mhm.
was like, let's take like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
breathe. How you doing? What's going on? What are you up to this weekend? And just kind of give the brain time to reset.
right.
Yeah, and Alicia, just a tiny push of encouragement. It's like just
Yes.
get that
Yeah,
ball rolling,
yeah,
and
yes,
then it goes. But we sometimes think as adults, oh, no, I'm going to have to do the whole thing for them.
yes,
No,
yes.
I'm just going to say, no, Alex, go to the registry. Oh, okay.
Right, right. I think one of the things that I love about sort of the positive reframing of the struggles in executive functioning is when you're able to say to a student, your own child, whoever, I think you know how to do this, but I'm going to be here every step of the way. Let's get started. What do you think is the first step that we can do? Or I notice that you're really struggling right now, and that's okay. I would be frustrated too.
Yeah.
Let's take 2 minutes and just mindfully breathe,
Yeah.
right? Right. So I think it's really beautiful when parents, educators, adults are able to model this and model the vulnerability to our younger generation because they are taught in so many different ways outside of the home that it is not okay to be vulnerable. It is not okay to make mistakes. I don't know I don't know how. I've only gotten to where I've gotten to because I've made mistakes, right? Because I've been able to get back up again. I've been able to reflect. What was hard? What could I have done differently? Right? All of that executive awareness is going to make them amazing human beings that are going to just change the world.
Yeah. And I find that, and then I'll turn it over to you. Sharing, and there's another question.
Yeah.
Sharing, like, so my experiences, not in order to get them to understand something,
Yeah. Yeah.
but just like sometimes, like, oh, I remember when I was like in college and this happened,
Yeah.
or in high school, I always got frustrated and I would just sort of rush through things. And I had this mantra, don't worry, why worry? It'll all work out. Which was my way of like avoiding a lot of things.
Yeah.
But not as a strategy, but just if I find that when something pops into my mind, like, oh, that's familiar, let me share a little bit of my humanity with you,
Yeah.
whether it's a student or your own teenager, or with my kids, Amy's kids. It becomes human to human, and it's not, oh, I know this and I'm the boss. Like it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Couple more.
Yeah. Happy.
Uh,
Let's talk.
yeah, let's see. It's from Cheryl. I think that this generation is totally different from when I was growing up. My son is about to be 10. I feel I'm always having to explain what to do.
Mm,
I do the breathing moment at times so that he doesn't think I'm frustrated with him. Awesome.
that's so good.
We all learn things in different ways. And thank you for more guidance on how to handle different situations. Yes, I sometimes have to do the breathing with adults too.
Yes. Oh, yes, we do. These are not, age specific, y'all. You
No.
can take these and apply them to any generation, honestly.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Why don't I turn this back to you?
Awesome. Great.
And then we'll bump in again as people have questions, ask them.
Okay. Okay. Let me get back here. All right. Okay. Here we go. All right. So when we think about the power of these strategies, and thank you everyone for sharing so vulnerably what you have done, what has been frustrating for you, and everything in between. I don't want you to think about using all of them. That is brain overload. I'm getting overwhelmed by just thinking about that, right? It's being able to choose the right one at the right moment and then use it consistently, right? These strategies are evidence based, right? They're truths, they're realistic. None of them rely on willpower alone. They work because they reduce that cognitive load and they support the developing brain. So you don't need all five all the time. If you choose one well chosen strategy, use it consistently, that can be transformative, right? And so, how these strategies look will differ depending on your role, right? For teens, I try to keep the tools very simple and concrete. For educators, we help them build the structure into the environment. So, those reflection questions coming at the end of a task or an end of an assignment, very, very key in building that executive awareness, right? For parents, the goal is coaching, not taking over. That is so key here. One of the most powerful shifts that adults can make is moving from doing for to thinking with. That's how independence is built, right? And so when I am coaching parents through this, I encourage parents to make the move from, let me do this for you, to, let me help you think this through. Because that second line builds the independence over time, right? And sometimes it's even smaller. I'll share a personal example. I always share with my son, I really do think you know how to do this, but I'm going to be here and you can tag me in if you need a thought partner, right? He was on the bus. He's 10 years old. He's on the bus and he didn't use the bathroom before this really long bus ride. Okay, what do we do? He called me, and in my frustration, I'm not on the bus with you, kiddo. What do you think I can do for you right now? And what he said to me was the most powerful thing that stopped me dead in my tracks. Mom, I was calling you to help me think through some strategies. Okay. How can I be mad? You're on a bus. I'm not with you. Let's think through some strategies. The awareness that he knew he could rely on me, even when I wasn't in close proximity to him, to be his thought partner, greatest role ever. That was a proud mom moment, even though I didn't react in the way that I'm trying to coach all my parents on how to react, right? So again, me modeling that behavior allowed him to model that behavior back to me. And that was a very powerful parenting moment for me. Let's go. So let's think through really quickly, returning back to Jordan, right? So nothing about Jordan's intelligence has changed, right? Project is still due. He's still stressed out. What we changed was the support structure. We broke down the tasks. We managed the distractions of the phone. Reflections were introduced. What's really important about these strategies is that confidence followed success, not the other way around. Confidence followed success. This is how executive functioning grows. Small wins, repeated consistently. When I think about what I could leave you guys with, I want to make it manageable for you all. because we live in a very demanding world. Everybody wants something from us at all times of the day. So, my challenge to you is to pick one strategy, just one. I want you to try it for 7 days, not perfectly, because we're not perfect, but just intentionally. I would love if all the audience members in the chat would share with us what strategy they might use for this week, the 7-day trial.
Yep. And Tamy-Feé, can you put up the slide that would have those?
Yes, absolutely. Let me go back.
Because my working memory didn't.
That's okay. That is absolutely okay. Here we go. Here are the 5 evidence-based strategies to build those skills. So reflect really quickly. What resonated for you? Or what do you think your brain needs this week? Share that strategy that you're going to try out for 7 days, not perfectly, just intentionally in the chat. Share it with an accountability partner. Maybe that is your teenager. Maybe it is your partner. Whoever it might be, share it with them.
Yep. So I will say, and again, we have this there we go. Okay. Chris, breaking tasks into smaller steps, which is me. Absolutely. I have insane, overwhelming numbers of projects. Practicing mindfulness, Jen.
Yeah. Start small, right? Stay
breaking
consistent.
tasks for Jenny, mindful breathing.
Yes.
Reflect and self-monitor from Winnie.
Love that.
Practice mind. Oh, really? I hear 15-month-olds are hard. For mindfulness, sure. Daily structures, great. Routines are definitely missing for Jeremy.
Yes.
Mindfulness for Alicia.
What you all are doing right now. Yeah, what you're doing right now is you're supporting the brain. You're supporting your brain. That will change everything. It's going to be transformative. The fact that you're learning about this already puts you in a powerful position to support growth, not just for yourself, but your cherubs around you.
I often say, I said I sort of geek out on neuroscience about 15 years ago. I spent several years really exploring and hanging out with PhD neuroscientists, and in the very idea of we can play with our brains.
Yeah.
And when we know how our brain functions and what it's doing and why, we're optimized to be couch potatoes. We are supposed to be, to conserve energy. So when there's an antelope, we can chase it, or a lion, we can run away, which is not what we need these days necessarily, but all sorts of, evolutionary things we develop to do make no sense here in the 21st century. So as we notice, and this is unbelievably important and powerful, we have about 10 minutes left. Any other? So I don't know. I think that was your last slide, Tamy-Feé. Is that right?
Yeah. Executive functioning skills are built through practice, pressure, y'all. And so I thank you all for being here.
Yeah. And we can stick around for Q&A. Priscilla, thank you. I have to leave. Thank you so much for the information. Definitely will use to help my students in admissions consulting. Great. What other questions? And again, if you want to actually engage and talk with voices as opposed to letters, just say so in the chat or raise your hand. How do you raise your hand? I'm not sure how to raise your hand. But yeah, it's again, I'm looking at my work and just amazed at the things. You're welcome, Jenny. At how all of these little pieces add up. And as I look at different families and different parents, I'm just so even more proud than before of Amy, my fiance, because she kept worrying, I'm not doing this stuff for my kids. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing all these things. And I was I think you're doing great. And I think she naturally was doing a lot of, not everything, but a lot of things were it was okay, go do the thing.
Yeah.
You can do the, what do you need to do the thing?
Yes.
And just amazing. Let's see. Late comment about reflect and self monitor hit home. Allie, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. How do you handle, Laurie? Great. How do you handle teens who are uncomfortable because they know they're a little bit different from peers with approaching tasks? And so you go first, and I have some stuff around that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're talking about my neurospicy babies. Very, very special cohort that I love dearly because I'm one of them, right? And so one of the things that uh, first has to be built is self efficacy and sense of self and purpose. In order for someone to be able to, for example, use noise cancellation headphones when the environment around them gets too chaotic, they're the only one using it? Oh no, right? We have to normalize that I learn differently than you. And in order for me to learn, this is the tool that I need. It's no different than you writing in your planner or you putting your headphones on and listening to music. I need it at this. This is my specific entry point for learning. And so it's really about building that self-efficacy and sense of self and sense of purpose at home first. And then as parents, finding the right educational structures to put them in. Um, Not all classrooms are created equal, and that's unfortunate, truly. But once we find the educational classroom or structure that really fosters that level of understanding, it becomes rinse and repeat for the student themselves and the students around them. The students around them are learning empathy, compassion, and
Oh, that's cool.
looking at things from a different perspective. Just because you don't need noise cancellation or need it doesn't mean that I am any uh, less capable than you are.
Oh, that's great. I'm going back to, 15, 18 years, what I was doing years ago. I was really focusing on how we relate to time and how humans evolved to relate to time, how our brains process time just as a concept. Um, it took 3 years of my life of exploration. And what I started discovering is, if you think of planners and calendars and just project managers and all of those are all designed by engineers.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a creative. I'm not an engineer. I'm not wired for that. And if you look out at nature, look for the right angles and the square boxes in nature. It doesn't exist. So there's something for many, many people, calendars are just incredible.
Yeah.
And I worked with people, and one man was just like absolutely overwhelmed with everything, and his wife he was making his wife crazy, and no one knew when the doctor appointment was or they were supposed to have dinner. He was an artist, so they put up a whiteboard, and every month he would make this art display of the month
Mm.
with the events and the dates, and they were illustrated, and you could, it sort of somehow flowed through like you're going through the pathway of the 31 days. And so he could put his very visual world up there, and his wife could look at it, and it worked for both of them.
Yeah.
And so it's really just like sometimes you just have to find what's going to work for this person at this time, which you said earlier. Sometimes you get to be really creative and playful around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And understand that, like, for some people, including me, I look at a calendar and there's a whole bunch of things on it. To me, that it used to seem like prison.
Mm. Yeah.
I've got a lot more freedom around it. It took 20 years to get the freedom. Just so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Couple more questions. So Jen, seconded by Jeremy, how can you advise a parent on how to manage setting routines and sticking to routines with consistency?
Yeah. Um, that's a really great question. And one of the things that I have done as a parent is setting up my routines based on the type of day that might occur in my household. So days where we had a rough morning, I have a whole routine. Days where we are are running on we're running on time, we're doing all the things, I make sure I build in routines that are celebratory, I gamify things, right? So for me as a parent, I set routines not so that they're rigid, but that they are adaptive to what might happen on that day, which is so key because you don't know what happened at school. You're just getting the brunt of it when it comes home, right? So they've lived a whole 8 hours just like you did, and so they're not at that developmental level of being able to say, okay, I'm not going to give this, this is my junk to carry. I'm not going to give this to mom and dad. No, you're going to get it because you're the safe space. And so your job as the parent is to create the structures in which there is that safe space. So decision trees are really helpful, especially when you have a teen that comes home that might have, you know, might need a reset, might need a to jump right into homework, might need to go right into practice, right? All the things of the day still have to happen, but can we follow a decision tree? If then this, then this, then that. Making a decision tree and gamifying it,
Can,
laminate that.
can you give an example of what you mean by decision tree? Like, what are the decisions about?
Yeah, sure. So, mom, I came home. I am a little dysregulated. The kids made fun of me today. I I'm still really upset about it. There's no way that I can do homework at right now. Okay, no problem. Decision, you need a break. You need a reset. So what are the strategies within that reset that we can do? Are we doing legs up on the wall? Are we going to go play basketball? Are we going to do stairs? Are we going to sit in a yoga pose for 2 minutes? Are we going to do mindful breathing? Are we going to do the tapping method? What do you want? You're giving them options, which creates agency, which creates advocacy. So the next time they come home from a bad day, they might not even ask you. You might just be like, what is Johnny doing? Legs up on the wall, trying to calm down. It was a rough day. And now
Okay.
your point of entry is, I see you have your legs up on the wall. Tough day, right? Can I join you? Can I join you? Right?
Wow.
Yeah, that's what
This
I
was
mean.
not how I was raised.
No,
So like,
not, not,
wow.
not me
They,
either.
had they known, they would have.
Yes.
If they had any clue,
Hmm.
I am clear that this is how my parents would have raised me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no one knew this stuff.
Exactly.
And like when I first started working with teenagers, I had no idea. And it was sort of like, working with them over years and years and, kind of figuring it out
Yeah.
a lot of it and getting and talking with all sorts of folks like you. But man, this is amazing. Let's see, Jen, I'm wondering if you might have any tips or suggestions for teens with ADHD who are struggling with executive functioning. That's a
Yes.
big
Really,
question.
that is a big question. I'm gonna try to chunk it because I think it is um, it's a really important one because what is it? The stats right now is over 50% of the population is being diagnosed with ADHD or some sort of neurodivergent learning strategy or learning pattern. So, first thing to remember with ADHD teens, they don't need more willpower. All that they've mustered up is all that they got. What they need is better systems. So, executive functioning support needs to support reducing the cognitive load, not increasing it, right? So, a couple of strategies that I use. The first one, time anchoring, not time estimation. What does this address? Time blindness or poor future awareness, right? Which our ADHD teens sometimes struggle with. So the strategy here is anchor the task in fixed external events, not vague durations. So you're not going to tell your ADHD teen, you're going to work for 25 minutes. No. You're going to say, work from 4 p.m. to 4:25 until the alarm goes off. You're going to use countdown timers, you're going to use calendar blocks, and you're going to use visual time timers, right? And you're going to build routines around those daily time anchors. This works for teens with ADHD because they struggle to feel time passing. So when you anchor them in that way, you're creating a temporal structure that feels safe for them, right? So that's one strategy. Another strategy that I really love is scaffolding self-monitoring. But I put a caveat there. Don't expect independence too soon, right? So this addresses our teens with weak metacognition and weak follow through, right? So lots of times we all heard this: check your work, double check your work, please, right? You're going to replace check your work with a structured reflection. It's going to be a simple checklist. Did I answer every question? If there's a standard, did I answer every question in complete answer form? If in math you have to put a square around the final answer, did I put a square around the final answer, right? Then check in with the adult, right? Being able to check in with the adult allows a focus on the process, not the outcome. So I don't care if you got all 10 questions wrong. I care that you attempted, that you followed the instructions, and that you were aware of your awareness. So this executive functioning strategy helps develop through guided practice and not reminders. So you're moving away from the reminders of check your work to a routine and guided practice that they can consistently go back to. Again, our ADHD teens need structure, systems, strategies for systems for their success. Let me give one more. Sorry, I just want to.
No, I just want to acknowledge it's 5:00, 5:01, or 6:01. We can keep going. We can, we can keep going. There's one or two more questions. We can stick around.
I'll do one
but
more
I just do want to acknowledge, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Tamy-Feé. I'm like, lots to think about, and just really, really amazing. So I'm so grateful to have you join in. And I'll so wrap up. I'll be sending out, it'll come out tomorrow, a follow-up email with a couple of things from Tamy-Feé. I'll share a couple of things. I'm going to actually include a couple of things around college essays, even though some of you are like 18 years away from this, 16 years away. But I'm going to do that because some of the ways I realize I have structured, it's like, how to read any college essay like a pro, how to proofread a college essay, very checklisty.
Yes.
Very step by step. So these kinds of tools and strategies can work. I mean, it simplifies my life in giving feedback to students because it's so process driven that it's just second nature. And I slash every year. It's just like I go quicker and quicker, and it's sort of less time to produce as good or better results. Absolutely. Because it has process, because a lot of the things that you've talked about. So again, thank you. We are going to stick around for any other questions. So back to Tamy-Feé. Darian says, and you had another example.
Yes, I just want to give the last example, which I think is most common in ADHD, anybody, teens, adults, is weak working memory, planning, and task initiation, right? So we want to move the thinking out of the head and into the environment. And so what we want to do is keep the tools that help our ADHD brains visible. So a lot of times we say, go write the essay. That's not going to be helpful. We need to break that assignment into a visible micro steps. Open the document, write the intro, find 2 quotes. When you keep the tools visible, what you're doing is helping that ADHD brain focus, right? Because ADHD brains do not reliably retrieve information internally, right? because we know that ADHD impairs internal self-monitoring. And so we need external systems to substitute for it. So using visual planners, using a whiteboard, digital task managers, those are going to be helpful in helping with weak working memory, planning, and task initiation. Awesome. I think, Barak, you might be muted, but
there we go. So yeah, Jen, I just want Jen said, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, these are beneficial for adults and teens. And then Darian, I love the concept of imperfectly practicing these strategies one at a time and weave them into the fabric of our approaches. Your guidance is so helpful and effective. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome to everyone. So it looks like that's kind of what we got.
Yeah, I love it. I'm glad we got to everybody's question. That's really important.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Tamy-Feé. Thank you all. Again, I'll be sending out a follow-up email. I have other webinars that have already been recorded, and I'll send a link to those and different resources. And if you have any questions, you'll have Tamy-Feé's contact, my contact. Reach out to us.
Please do.
And otherwise, beyond that, have a great evening.
Have a great evening, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.